Shalom, 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 shalom. First, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakal Kadash, and double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who are leading this word in truth and in spirit and in sincerity. It's lucky. And shalom to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters that have been edified by the truth of the scriptures of who we are, the true children of Israel, and who the other nations are. Now, NATO, today's edification, NATO is Esau's white supremacy Western alliance. That's all NATO is. NATO is a white supremacist, an Edomite, so-called white people, supremacist Western alliance. This is who the beast is in the Bible. As you can see here, all of the countries, including Canada and America, in the blue, that are members of NATO, except for Ukraine, I shall say in dark blue, in the dark blue. All right? Now, listen to what this is one of the Chinese ambassador's representatives, he said yesterday about NATO. Listen carefully to what he says. We're going to quickly play this video here. As you see, it's titled, NATO Undermines World Peace, Helps Advance US World Domination Ambitions Experts. This is what he said about NATO yesterday.
States has been complaining about Europe not shouldering their burden in terms of security. And then all of a sudden, you have this situation where America knew full well, we were well advised, even people in the administration have admitted that if you go into Ukraine, you're asking for a war with Russia. So the war with Russia, what has it yielded? It has yielded a renewed effort, a renewed commitment by Europe to put 2.5% from each of their countries and expanding it into this new NATO. And this NATO is not only concerned about Russia, now they're reaching across into the Asia Pacific. So in essence, what you have is the US has been able to successfully transfer its role as policeman of the world to NATO. And in essence, having Europe pay either a half or 2/3, depending on how you want to look at it, of the cost. This is a dream for the military-industrial complex of the United States, also the war hawks.
We have seen the occupation of the entirety of East Syria after the jihadi proxy war backed by NATO states failed to overthrow the government in Kiev. We continue to see problems in Iraq years after the U.S. occupation of the country, and then NATO states, non-U.S. NATO states moving in, to provide backup after the overthrow of the government there. We see the failed expeditionary 20-year occupation of Afghanistan destabilization across the entirety of the Middle East and the Mediterranean world. Of course, NATO is an aggressive threat, and now they're shifting their focus to the Pacific, putting China and the Chinese people directly in their targets, really just in pursuit of global hegemony. So, of course, Russia sees a...
That's what global hegemony is, right? What NATO is exercising, the beast. That's not the mark which IUIC keeps on talking about. That hegemony is the mark. Hegemony is not the mark. This is the image of the beast. This is the beast, right? Expanding itself because it's getting prepared for the war of all wars. Let's listen on.
Threat, and where they see a real strategic threat to their interests, as they saw in Ukraine with the de facto NATOization and the US and the UK building military bases in Ukraine, they will take action to defend themselves. And it must be said, the people of East Ukraine that were suffering under a regime bombings and attacks for 8 years as well.
So that's what NATO's planning here. Now, this is what Putin said yesterday. Not yesterday, sorry, a few days ago. Listen to what he says carefully in this interview.
A meeting with State Duma members, Russian President Vladimir Putin has been daring the West to try and defeat it on the battlefield.
We are hearing that they want to defeat us on the battlefield. What can I say? Let them try. We have often heard that the West wants to fight us until the last Ukrainian. It's a tragedy for the Ukrainian people, but it looks like it's heading in that direction. But everybody should know that, largely speaking, we haven't even yet started anything in earnest.
Russia accuses the West of waging a proxy war against it by hammering its economy with sanctions and stepping up the supply of advanced weapons to Ukraine. Vladimir Putin says the prospects for any negotiation are bleak the longer the conflict drags on, but didn't rule talks out.
We don't refuse peace talks, but those who refuse should know that the longer it lasts, the more difficult it will be for them to make a deal with us. Several packages of anti-sanctions measures were introduced in a short period of time, starting as early as the first days of March, in close contact with the government. Thanks to them, the consequences of the unfriendly, clearly hostile actions of Western countries have been minimized.
So Putin's daring, he's made a statement, he dares the West to come and fight on the battlefield. You see, the reality is, Putin challenges the West, dares the West to fight on the battlefield. The reality is that they will. That's where it's all heading. But everyone's making the right noises. Now, when we say NATO is Esau's white supremacist Western alliance, I mean, it's simple to understand this. These are all of the NATO members here, right? That you see on the screen here. These are all of the NATO countries in blue that make up NATO. Now, if we look at the members of NATO, from Albania, these are all Edomite countries, right? Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Montenegro, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States. So these are all Edomite countries. All of these countries are run by Esau. From the United States, Esau Edom's HQ, all the way to Albania. So when we say to you that NATO is Esau's white supremacist Western alliance, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is, who they are. They're not here. NATO is not here to defend anything. NATO is an aggressor who's looking to spread its hegemony, as the reporter was saying, the analyst was saying, across the world. But it's come across its greatest adversary, Russia, who will be in alliance with China for what's to come. But people still don't want to see this and believe this. NATO started off as 12 founding members: Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, United Kingdom, United States. That was its beginning. The beast that came out of the bottomless pit, that's its military arm, that's its military wing, that's the military wing of the beast that's come out of the bottomless pit, which is Europe. So this ain't no organization that's here to defend what they call human rights, what they like to claim they call, they represent human rights, when it suits them. It's not about that. This is about Esau having his grip on the whole world. And this is why this war has to take place, because the powers to the east, Russia, China, these Eastern bloc of powers, India will be involved. These are all going to be an alliance against all of those NATO countries, because Putin understands exactly what's going on, what they're trying to achieve. And he's not going to allow it. Even more so, is because the Most High is not going to allow it. The spirit that the Most High is going to put on these leaders, according to Bible prophecy, is that they will go to war. There's nothing that's going to stop this war. Nothing that they're going to do. That's why Putin said, this is why he's daring them. And you know, there are proud people in the West, as Edomites in the West, there are proud people. Putin dares the West to fight in the battlefield. He's calling it on. Putin is not sitting there thinking, I'm concerned. He's calling it on. Putin is calling it on. He's daring them to come to the battlefield. Because he wants this war. He wants to get it over and done with, but he doesn't realize that it's the Lord has put the spirit on him to react in such a way. So Putin is daring NATO to come to the battlefield, to physically come to the battlefield, because he knows they're already there in a proxy. And he understands that. But ultimately, as I say again, this is the Lord's work. This is the Lord's work. This is the beast. This is the beast that's come out of the bottomless pit. All right? As we saw, how NATO started. This is their hegemony is nothing but what we call white supremacy. That's all it is. It's Esau wanted to get his hands on everything and everyone. So when the Bible speaks about, when the Bible speaks about the what do I want to go to? Let's just grab a few scriptures here. Revelation chapter 9. So when the Bible says here, Revelations 9 and 12, one woe is past, and behold, there comes two woes more after. The two woes were what? World War II, which has already come and passed. The second one is going to be World War III. It's ain't talking about, you see, Christianity's understanding of what this is speaking about. They still think that the Lord is going to be fighting with the actual angel Satan. That's what these Christians believe. They believe that the Lord Himself, all right. This is why they can't understand the Bible. Their understanding, they think, right, that the Lord Himself is actually going to be fighting with Satan, the actual angel Satan. No. The Lord is coming to fight against Esau, the physical counterpart. You see, the religious world is awash with ideas as to what constitutes the bottomless pit, right? Let me tell you. So from the scripture, we know and we understand that the bottomless pit is talking about Europe, that dead rock. That is what it's referring to, Europe, and particularly Western Europe, right? They look at it as if it's some place where an angel lives, where evil spirits are, and they're held there waiting for the day of judgment. That's what Christians believe. They don't even understand when it speaks about the bottomless pit is opened at the fifth trumpet. They don't understand that, or of the seventh seal. Christians don't understand the Bible. They look at the word bottomless pit. They think it's talking about a multitude of evil angels coming forth to torture mankind, and you know, of a period of 5 months, and they don't understand who Abaddon was in the Hebrew or Apollyon in the Greek, who that was referring to. Christians don't understand the Bible. They don't understand who the king of the bottomless pit is, who was the king of Europe. They don't understand that it's talking about Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. All right? He was the emperor. And he was also the king of Prussia, which we know today of Russia. They don't understand that. They don't know that's who the king of the bottomless pit is. They're still thinking in terms of angels, bad angels coming to fight good angels. They've totally lost the plot. Totally lost the plot. So when it talks about here Abaddon, they don't realize this is talking about this king here. Is talking about Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. He was a German emperor, and he was the king of Prussia. Right? He lived around 1880s. He ruled around 1880s till about just after the ending of the Second World War, or just as it ended, 1918, 1919. He ruled. This is why we get the one woe is past. The one woe is past is referring to this here. The king, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. They think it's talking about an actual angel. This is referring to Kaiser Wilhelm II of the German emperor. He was also the king of Prussia. The one woe that was past was the war that took place between him and his cousins, George V of England and the Tsar Nicholas II Romanov of Russia. So Prussia was, the king of Prussia was like another name that they kind of used for Germany as well. That was considered parts of Germany back then. And the one woe that passed was the war that this king had, Kaiser Wilhelm, with his cousins, George V of England and the Tsar Nicholas II Romanov of Russia. That's what this was this is what this is talking about, which is past. And then it says, behold, there comes another 2 more woes, the Second World War. And then we come to the Third World War. So NATO, the beast, was established after the Second World War, 1949. That's when it was established. So when the scripture says, let's just get up a precept here. And this is what they don't understand. Before we go to Revelation 11, it says there, and the 6th angel sounded and heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before Yahweh, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. What angels are those? Those are the angels that are holding back the destruction in Revelation chapter 7. It's referring to those 4 angels in Revelation chapter 7 that's holding back the destruction. So we're in a sense, we're at the part of the 6th angel blowing this trumpet, getting ready to loose those 4 angels. And this is what it says, and the 4 angels were loosened, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the 3rd part of men. Who are the 3rd part of men? The 3rd part of the Edomites. There are 3 types of men, right? The sons of Yasharallah, sons of Israel, sons of the powers, right? That's who the sons of Yasharallah is. Then you've got the sons of men, which are the other heathen nations, like the Arabs, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Africans, East Indians. Then you've got the sons of the wicked. which are the Edomites, Esau's descendants, the so-called white man. So the third part of men is the sons of the wicked. Because these are the people that are going to, you see, these are the nations that are going to be doing this. The Russians, which are going to be firing their nukes on the Americans, the Canadians, and the Americans and their allies in Europe, and they're going to be firing them back. This is why it says 1/3 of men shall die. 1/3 of the Edomites, because these are predominantly Edomite countries. Russia, all these European countries from England to Spain to France, these are all Edomite countries. So the 1/3 of men that are going to die are 1/3 of Edomites, because these are the guys that are going to be initiating the wars on each other, the Russians, which will be allied with the Chinese and the East Indians. But these are the guys that are going to initiate it. The Russians against NATO, against the beast. So that's where we get the 1/3 of men. And for to slay the third part of men, of the wicked, of the Edomites. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. I heard the number of them, which are the missiles, which they're going to be firing on each other. This is what the beast is. This is why the Russians are daring them to join the war. Stop hiding behind the curtains. This is what Vladimir Putin is basically saying to these Edomites in the West. Stop hiding behind the curtains like we're in, what's that movie? The Wizard of Oz. When they finally made it to the kingdom and they saw it was this little old man behind the curtain. Because that's what we've got today, little old men, elites, little old men, which are the elites at the very top of their power that are orchestrating this all. But what they're doing is in the spirit, because it's Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, the Father through the Son, that's initiating all of this to fulfill the prophecies of the Bible. But the Christians don't understand this. They still think this is some war between angels are going to be fighting against angels. No. Esau's angels are his armies. His actual armies, his Jones, his F-16s and his F-35s and everything he's got out there. He will eventually come up against Yahushua and the angels, but not until he fights his fellow Edomites first to initiate that war. Remember what the Lord said, right? Is it Luke 12? What is it? Luke 12. Yahushua divides men. I love it. That's what he's coming to do, to divide them. Yahushua divides men. He's not coming to unite you guys. What this New World Order wants, the New World Order is about uniting everyone. That's why these black churches are trying to come up against this truth now. Say, oh, love, everybody, love. No. It's not about coming together. Yahushua is coming to tear it all apart. So it says, I am come to send fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled? Yahushua is coming to send fire on the earth. What is it they don't understand? They don't understand the Bible because the Spirit of the Lord is not on them. You see, the Christians never ever used to even go into the Old Testament or to the scriptures to look up words or definitions or etymology of words. They never did that. The black church never did that. I can tell you that. You would have certain white Christian churches, Edomite Christian churches that did that, absolutely. But the so-called black church never did that. All of a sudden you got these black pastors and preachers going like they know the Bible. Come on, man. You'd have to be a fool to listen to them. Yahushua is coming to divide men. He's not coming to unite them. He's coming to divide men. Just like it says here, Matthew 10:34 and 39. Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I have not come to send peace, but a sword. For I'm come to set a man at variance against his father, and a daughter against the mother, and daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law, and a man's foe shall be of his own household. Simple as that. So this is what they're getting ready to. This is what everything's being prepped for. Everything we see going on around the world. The only thing that has to happen first, and we speak about this all the time, is the MOTB, the mark, which is the microchip, has to be in play first. Has to gone global. Some type of globalization of the mark has to be in play first. So we look out for the markers, the collapsing of the currencies. But this whole NATO thing is a defense organization, and it's total BS. They are aggressors. They're only there to empower white supremacy. That's all. There are no NATO countries that come from East India. There's not a single country of color that's a member of NATO. But yet you've got people, our own fellow Israelites, that will be in these countries that want to fight for these devils, join their armies and fight. All they're doing is fighting to continue Esau's hegemony, to continue empowering white supremacy. That's all they're doing. Any so-called person of color that's fighting for any of those NATO countries, all they are doing is empowering white supremacy, because that's all it's about. NATO is only about empowering white supremacy, from the United States to Canada to Europe. There are no countries of color that's a member of NATO. NATO goes and invades those countries and steals from them and destroys them. That's what this beast does. But this is the end game here. This is the end game, Revelations 19. So when it says, I thus saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, right, having breastplates of fire. These are the missiles, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone, because that's where the warheads are, in the heads of the missiles. That's the warhead. By these three was a third part of men killed. You understand? By the nuclear war that's coming, that the beast is going to initiate with Russia, the bear, and China will play a part. India will play a part. Pakistan will play a part. Iran is providing Russia, apparently, drones to fight this war against the Ukrainians. That's why I can't see, I've said this before, I can't see this JPOC deal, this nuclear deal that the West is trying to renegotiate again with Iran. I can't see that being signed and going through. The Iranians have had enough of this devil. They know who they are. They're of no illusions who they're dealing with. So when it says by these three was a third part of men killed, the third part of men is talking about Esau, Edom, the Edomites. Because, as I said, this is going to be the war. This is where it's all going to start, between the Russians and the beast members, America, Canada. And this is where it's all going to take place, down here. The battlefield ain't going to be here. The battlefield that Putin said, look, Putin said, right, I love the way he said, Putin dares the West to fight on the battlefield. Well, the battlefield that they will come to fight in is going to be down here in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, because we say this all the time. Something is going to trigger Israel, that's going to cause the Russians to attack, that's going to cause America and its NATO members, or between Israel and Iran, that's going to cause their backers. Russia will be backing Iran, America will back Israel, and then the rest of the NATO members, the beast, will have to back America. But this is where it's all going to, this is the battlefield where it's going to happen, down here in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. So it's ironic that Putin uses those words. Putin dares the West to fight on the battlefield. Because in Joel chapter 2, Joel chapter 3, this is where the Lord wants them. I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered amongst the nations and parted my land. That's where the Lord is pulling them to. The nations will be judged. So the churches don't have a clue what's going on. Verse 9, it says, proclaim you this amongst the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. What did Putin say? Putin says, dares West to fight on the battlefield. He dares the West to come and fight on the battlefield. He's making it clear. He wants them there. But it's not the battlefield that they're in at the moment in Ukraine where they're going to be drawn to. It's going to be the one in the valley of Jehoshaphat. So when it says here, beat your plowshares into swords, this is what they're all doing. It's all about making arms and weapons, right? And your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. So when you see things like this, I think Iran, let me just see. Iran provides drones for Russia. Here they are. There it goes. 1 day ago. Russia could take advantage of Iranian-made combat drones in Ukraine conflict. Here they are. That's what's happening. Iran has supplied unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, to its proxies in the Middle East and employed them during reconnaissances, sabotage and attack missions in the region. Now, Iranian-made drones could end up in the hands of Russia, which is facing Western sanctions and international isolation for use in its war in Ukraine. The White House said on July 11th that it had information that Iran was rushing up to several hundred drones, including weapons-capable UAVs, to Moscow's aid, a claim that appears to have been rejected by Tehran. Moscow has refused to comment on the issue. So that's what they're doing, because that's their allies. That's going to be their allies, the Persians, in this war. Remember, listen, man, these guys ain't doing this thing for nothing, you know. If we just hold on. Remember in Isaiah, right? Your eyes, I keep saying Isaiah. Shalom to the Akiyams on the comic board. Remember in Ezekiel 38, right? Remember, these guys here are going to be part of Gog and Magog's here. See? When it says here, it says, and say thus the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, talking about Russia, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. That's why they're in Ukraine. And I will bring thee forth and all thine army and horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, and a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, modern day weapons. Persia, which is, who's Persia? That's what we know today as Iran. So they're going to be part of this alliance that's going to come up against the West in the last days of the last days, because we're in the latter days of the latter days. As some people don't understand, the latter days began when Yahushua was on the scene. That was the beginning of the latter days, when Yahushua was here, walking the earth. We're at the latter days of we're at the end of the latter days, basically. That's all. The latter days began over 2,000 years ago. That's why it says, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north, which is Turkey, all right, and all those bands and many people with them. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a God unto them. That's what Russia's going to be. And after many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that's brought back from the sword. And that's what we're going to see is going to take place. And it's gathered out of many people, right, against the mountains of Israel, the governments of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. So this is where it's coming. They will attack Israel for whatever reason. Something will happen. It'll either be between Iran and Israel that's going to draw America and Russia into this conflict down here, into the Middle East. So, you know, what Iran is doing there is all part of prophecy, because Iran is going to be part of that coalition, Persia, that's going to come up against America and this white supremacy Western alliance that they call NATO. That's all it is. NATO is just a code word for white supremacy Western alliance. And everyone knows it. There ain't no countries from Africa that's a member of NATO, or South America, or Central America. They're all Edomite-run countries. Canada, America, and all these Western European countries here, with Britain alongside it. So it says there, assemble yourselves. Verse 11, come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about till the cause the mighty ones to come down. Oh, Yahweh. And the mighty ones are going to be those missiles. Let the heathen be wakened and come to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle. For what? For the harvest is ripe. We're there. We're literally at the door. We're just waiting for the microchip to go global. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow. For their wickedness, whose wickedness could that be talking about? Is great. Come on, man. The scripture says, for their wickedness is great. Who could Joel be talking about? Esau, the Edomites. For the Edomites' wickedness is great. It's beyond comparison. No one can compare to the wickedness that Esau has done to the four corners of the world. Not just to the people, to the planet, to the land, to the air, to the water, to your food. There's no end to this man's wickedness in search of riches and wealth and domination and rulership and power. He doesn't care who he has to step on, murder, pillage, rape, kill, destroy. He don't give a shit. Because why he does all those things, then he goes and he rewrites the rules to accommodate his wickedness. So the fact that Prophet Joel says here, for their wickedness, who are the wicked that the Bible speaks of? Malachi 1 and 4. Esau, Edom, the Edomites, is great. It says, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. This is what those Christian churches, especially the black Christian church, is like a tomb. It's like walking into a tomb. It's near. Go back to Revelations. This is what's coming. It says, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails. What's in the mouth is the warhead. What's in the tail? The fuselage. That's the fuel part of the missile. That's power in it. So John the Revelator says these missiles that you saw, hundreds and thousands of missiles going through the skies, he says their power's in their mouth, that's when they hit their target, and in their tails, he's seeing the fire that's propelling them, the fuel that's propelling those missiles. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. They're gonna hurt, man. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, because these devils are not going to repent. They're going to curse out the Most High. That they should not worship devils, idols of gold, all of their riches that they worship. They think their gold and silver is going to save them. And silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. That's what James said, right? James said that your silver and your gold is cankered. James chapter 5. I didn't want to spend too long on this, but let's quickly go to it. James chapter 5. James 5 and 1. It says, go to now, ye rich men, you elites, you super elites, you multimillionaires, you billionaires, you trillionaires. Go to now, you rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. It's going to come upon you like a destruction. These are the miseries that's coming for you, rich men. for you elites and you super elites that you run the world. You're multimillionaires, you're millionaires, you're billionaires, you're multi-billionaires, you're trillionaires, you're tycoons. All of you rich men, all of you that are part of the New World Order, all of you that have signed up, your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped up treasure together for the last days. That's what they're doing. They're getting all this wealth. Elon Musk has got about 200 and odd billion quid. What's he gonna do with it? It's all gonna go to waste. Your fiat currency is all gonna go up in smoke. It's right? That's what it says. You have heaped up treasures together for the last days. That's what they did. That's why the scripture says here. And the rest of the men which are not killed by these plagues, all of those multi-millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires that are in their bunkers, hiding away from the destruction, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. They're not going to listen, man. They're going to go out with a bang. That's why I said all NATO is doing is there to protect white supremacy, nothing else. It's to keep the status quo. It's to keep these Edomites in power, and in particular, the ones in the West. But you see, Putin and his allies are going to put an end to that through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, without even knowing that it's the Lord that's put the spirit on them to do this. Then the Lord himself and Michael and the archangels are going to complete the destruction of Esau's kingdom, rulership, and Babylon the Great, America, shall be totally destroyed by nuclear fire. It's as simple as that. There is no shortcuts to what's coming. It's coming. It's as simple as that. It's all coming. It's whether you want to hear or whether you want to forbear. All of these prophecies shall be fulfilled. Every single last one of them. And there's nothing anyone can do that's going to stop it. Nothing. They just don't understand. When we explain to you who NATO is, it's the beast in the book of Revelations. This is why America's riding high. The whore is riding the beast. The whore that sits on the beast, she's riding high. She's put zest. She put zest back into the life of the beast, into NATO. They're more committed than ever to spend money to buy arms and all the rest of it. That's why the Lord wanted it. It wants the beast to believe it can win this showdown with Russia. It wants the beast to believe that there is nothing that can come up against it. It's going to believe in its own BS, basically. But it's all got to be initiated in a certain way. But we understand. So right now, the whore that rides the beast is riding it high. High, high, high. And that's why it says there in Revelation 17, the woman who's arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and fullness of her fornication. That's America. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, United States of America, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. That's why you got to go. For all of those things that have been said about you. That's why you got to go. So it's all coming. It's all coming. And it's all going to end in the victory, just like it says there, the victory of the Lamb. That's where it's all going to end. The Lamb, Yahweh Shai, shall be victorious against the beast, against the 10 horns, right? Against the woman that sits on, when it says here, when it says, verse 3, so he carried me away into the spirit, into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. That's what it is. The woman is America, the whore, the scarlet-colored beast is NATO. The woman has rejuvenated the scarlet-colored beast. Because remember, Trump was withdrawing from NATO and Europe, and he was coming. The Lord says, no, I need someone in power that's going to rejuvenate the beast, that's going to rejuvenate the EU and NATO, because I need them believing that they can win this war against the Russians, for them to go to war against the Russians before I send my son to take down all of these nations. So that's why it says there, the woman who sits upon the scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemies, having 7 heads and 10 horns. 7 heads represent 7 empires, and 10 horns represents the European Union when it was first started. The beast is NATO and the European Union, one and the same thing. So, and we've been through Revelation 7 many, many times before. So I just really wanted to get that in. NATO is Esau's white supremacist Western alliance. That's what it is. It's nothing else. It ain't here to defend me or you. It's not here for human rights and that. It's all about keeping this man in power. The scripture says, right? Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows it. Esau is going to come in, his rulership is coming to an end. As I said earlier, we wait until the mark goes global, then we're going to be there. Simple as that. So, I'm going to call it a day there. I pray you are edified by today's edification. NATO is Esau's white supremacist Western alliance. That's all NATO is. No matter what they try to tell you on the news about NATO, that's all it is. It's Esau's white supremacist Western alliance there to continue the status quo for these Edomites. All coming to an end. So we're going to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Wahasham, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is the Father, it means He is. Yahweh Shai is the Son, He's a deliverer. We give all the praises to the Father and the Son. Until we meet again, family, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Keep praying, keep safe, and hold on to this truth. All praises. And as always, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, who will be leading this word in truth and spirit and sincerity. Shalom, brothers and sisters. All praises.